Dr. Carlos Campo from Ashland University, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his Ashland Rising strategic plan that's actually kind of in its final stages. And here with me on the other side, I've got Mayor Matt Miller, who has been at the helm here in Ashland for about 2 years. All right, so what we're going to do, I'll allow each of them to talk a little bit about their plan, their initiatives, and then we'll get into a short Q&A and even allow the audience to ask some questions as well. All right, first up, Dr. Campo.
Terrific. Thanks, Tracy. And I know Tracy put me up first because, you know, what's more exciting than talking about a strategic plan? You know, wait a minute, that was not a joke. That's sad. That's my tiny life, right? I actually think that is exciting. Before anyone fell asleep, she wanted to make sure that we talked strategic plan. Well, I'll walk you through just some of the elements of the plan. But any plan at a university is about people, and I do want to recognize our alum, Matt Miller. You know, Matt is not just on the other side, he's on the same side. So thank you, Matt, for being an alum. We're here in the house of an alum, right? So when we think about investing in Ashland, part of our strategic plan is engaging with the community. So we'll start with that pillar. To me, it's been what we've been most successful at in our 4.5 years at Ashland. I didn't know that there was any ever separation between the university and the city. And then I met folks in Ashland and they said, you know, Carlos, there's almost always been sort of a conflict, a fight over resources. You know, does the university run this place or does the city run this place? I talked to alums who said, yeah, if you weren't a townie, that was a word I never heard before. See, I know. I'm learning after 4.5 years. But this community engagement piece is really important to us. We said as a team, and thank you, I've got our CFO back there, Vice President of Student Affairs, their families here, Dan Lawson, I mean, literally head of our seminary. Wherever you look, there are Ashland folks, absolute movers and shakers. Real shakers here, for sure, Denise can shake. But when you head to cheerleading and now it's stunt, you're better. I guess I should clarify that. But the reality is, we all said we want to serve this community. Every great university, and we aspire to be a great university, serves their community. What are the needs in this community? What are the things that make Ashland Ashland? And how can we get underneath those things and support them? That's what great education is all about. And one of the things we did, Matt, you may recall, we set up 15 separate communities, everything from arts to religion to culture, and we engaged community members. And we said, talk to us. What are we doing right? What can we do better? And while these committees don't meet regularly any longer, they cemented our relationship. Matt and I were just saying, it's part of the fabric of what we do now. We don't think about the intentionality as much as live it out. And so that community engagement piece really was an important one. Another one was our health and wellness, and that was reflected again at City Hall today, where someone said that university hospitals beat Ashland University in a competition. We don't see it that way. It was a competition about having a healthy environment. I don't think anyone loses there, so yes, okay.
But university hospitals won.
Oh, man.
just only Dr. Campo
we were runner-up.
taking the stairs.
You know, in the event that the winner cannot live out. Anyway, just when you think you have a friend, here comes Matt Miller, jabs me with the knife. Well, the reality is that healthy, welcoming campus environment is something that Ashland has always been a part of, but we want to be more intentional. You know, the reality is, folks, mental health is an issue on our campus and other campuses. It's part of our society, so that's one of the wellness things we want to get out ahead of and say we can help students integrate more fully into life on our campus and in this community. So that's pillar number 2. Third is just being responsible for dollars and cents. The reality is, while a university isn't a business, there are a lot of business principles that we have to be better at. And I think it's one of the things that we're proudest of at Ashland. We've established a more stable environment on campus. We've been able to give raises 3 out of the 4 years, thanks to a huge team working really well together. And that helps. That helps all of our culture here in Ashland. Our second pillar really is about our identity. And one of the things that we said at Ashland, we're not an overtly Christian school where students have to sign a statement of faith unless you're at the seminary. But instead, we say we want to be an open environment where the Christian values that founded that place in 1878. We're not a startup, Tracy, by the way. Yeah, we're not a startup like Ashland Source. But you know, after 141 years, those traditions feed into who we are. And so we always felt that those are kind of our foundation, and we want to keep that our foundation. But students come to us of no faith and of other faiths, and they are welcome on our campus, and always meant to feel as though we're an educational institution first, where yes, we're going to lift up the things that we believe in because we think it strengthens you as a person, and we want you to discern your life calling and thrive. That's our vision statement for Ashland. Academic affairs. Now I'm going to take 30 minutes for this. Is that okay, Matt?
All right.
That's going to take up all of your time, but you'll get over it. But anyhow, many of you have heard that one of the things I'm most excited about at Ashland is a new multi-literacy campaign where basically we're saying we can be better at teaching students how to write and how to speak. There are a lot of business owners here, a lot of folks who are involved. And when we talked to you, you said, Carlos, here's one of the things that Ashland and lots of other schools can do better. You can be better at preparing students to write effectively. Yes. More than 144 characters. Yes. More than an emoji. Yes. Please, not 8 exclamation points at the end of every sentence. So, yes, I did teach English for 20 years, so it is a pet peeve of mine as well. But we're also launching things like a new Military and Veterans Resource Center. You know, that's new on our campus and something that we feel like we need to serve those who have served our country effectively. That's new at Ashland. There's something new literally right behind me. Folks were just asking me, hey, what's that building you took over across the way? Todd Marshall is here. He's leading an effort whereby we are educating students who are currently incarcerated. 2.2 million Americans are behind bars. About 5 of them would qualify for a program that we're involved in. We're going to deliver our 1,000 graduates sometime in a year, the next year, and giving folks some hope and an opportunity so that when they transition, they'll have an opportunity so that that cycle doesn't continue in their lives. So walk across the street there. Yeah, I think it's worth applauding too. Yes, thank you. Walk across the street there. Those folks would be excited to welcome you at any time. And one of the things you'll see there that we're proud of is that actual inmates did the artwork that you're going to see on the walls there. And so from our perspective, those are just some of the things that are part of our strategic plan. But I will tell you, if there's one thing about Ashland that we try to say to every student, every parent, anyone who comes to Ashland is, we're striving to make you better. And when they say, well, what does that mean? We say, better at things like writing and speaking, better at the things that you're interested in, better as an athlete, but even more than that, better as a mayor, better as a human being. We think if we can strive to make one another better, that's a reflection of our community. Any great community says that. Care about you, and I want you to be better. That's what great universities do. It's what Ashland is all about. So thanks for the opportunity to talk just a little bit about the strategic plan at Ashland. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Tracy.
We'll get a little further into that and ask some questions here in a minute. But for now, Mayor Matt Miller, you have the floor.
Hey, I appreciate that. And I'll tell you what, when I turned around there to see the building that he was talking about, it wasn't because I haven't seen the building. It was because I wanted to check real quick and make sure all the street lights were on. Lately, there's been a problem with some of these street lights, and I thought the last thing you all need to be looking at is 2 flashing street lights out there. So it's good, Dr. Glenn Lawson. So here's what I want to tell you. Number 1, I am an admirer of Dr. Carlos Campo. I am an admirer. I look up to him. I think he's doing a wonderful job at Ashland University. Thanks, man. And I loved him even before I became mayor. Loved his wife, Karen, as well. And I truly do appreciate the fact that it's not just a catchy slogan, we need to enhance our relationship with the city. It is really now who we are. In fact, at our table before we came up here, on the drive over, I was thinking of all the ways we've connected and the committees that we're interacting with and so on. Where the university staff, where the city staff are working on various committees and efforts. And the truth is, there's so many of them that you forget about them because it is a way of life today. And so we certainly thank you for the attitude that you're bringing to the table. And not only that, it's one thing to talk the talk. The university wants to be more a part of our community. It's another thing to invest dollars and cents in buying a valuable downtown building. and remodeling it, if you want to call it this, saving it and making it useful. And then to put 30 to 40 employees in that building who are going to walk from their parking lot up Main Street every day, past every shop, past every restaurant, and they're going to partake, that's a game changer. That's what we have to have downtown in order to make places like the brewery and Downtown Perk and the gift shops a reality. Bike shops, especially. Tony Bunt up front from the Ashland Bike Company. And so we truly do appreciate that, I guess you could say, the university is putting their money where their mouth is. And thank you for doing that. Now, I'll tell you what, this afternoon, a gentleman from Copley, Ohio, who is planning to do business here in our community, came to the office. It was the first time that he had been in the mayor's office, first time he'd been in City Hall. And as we're talking, one of the things he said, he says, well, I have to tell you that prior to coming here, I have reached out to a few people that have been here, and they said, if you're going to talk to the mayor, chances are you're going to hear him talk about making Ashland sparkle. The mayor uses that a lot, he said. That's what I was told. Well, let me tell you where sparkle came from. That was actually when I announced that I'd run for the job of mayor. And it was not planned. It was not contrived. When I was talking about making Ashland sparkle that night, you know what I was talking about? Mowing the weeds in front of the Welcome to Ashland sign. That's the truth. Those shiny stainless steel A's, there were weeds that were getting higher than the word Ashland. And to me, those details matter. So that night when I said we need to make Ashland sparkle, I was talking about addressing all of those little details. Making the city look better. Making it sparkle. Well, now I've been in the job for more than, almost 2 years, you say, Tracy. And I have to confess, there's a lot more now to that sparkle. When I talk about making Ashland sparkle, I'm talking about polishing up all the relationships with all of our anchor institutions. What's an anchor institution? Ashland University, university hospitals, the city schools, our Chamber of Commerce, United Way. Every one of these organizations have a role to play in moving this community forward. And perhaps the reason that you are seeing so many changes take place at this particular time in our history is because the leaders that have assumed authority in these organizations are committed to doing whatever we can to move this city forward. We're realizing and even speaking at times that we rise and fall together. If the city gets better, the university will get better. And if the university gets stronger, we'll all benefit as we bring in a more diverse group of people to this community. So we're talking about not only polishing up the downtown, polishing up the street signs, polishing up the way we maintain our parks. We're talking about polishing up our relationships with one another, how we view one another. And I'll be quite frank, and this is where maybe you'll start to see that we connect. And that is the final part of the polishing that needs to take place, in my opinion, is the relationship between the city government and the citizens who live here. I'll be honest with you. My wife and I, we're committed to making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that every person that lives here or does business here or passes through here knows that they are, number one, loved, that they belong, and that they have a purpose here. And you know, you don't necessarily accomplish that just by patching a pothole. It's about building relationships and including the citizens in all that's going on here in town. I'll tell you something, and I'm not sure if it's a good idea for it to be broadcast or not, but I'll say this. Probably about 6 or 7 months into this, maybe as we got closer to the first year, whenever Melanie and I would be out and about in town, someone would come up to us and all sorts of different people of different backgrounds, different education levels would come up to us and say, boy, I just love all the things happening in our city. You've made so many changes. I'll tell you something. When they would walk away from me, I'd turn to Melanie and I'd say, I would love to know what changes they're talking about. And do you know what I would follow that up with, Melanie? Melanie, you know? What has changed is the lens through which everyone is seeing the great city. Right. We've painted a picture of what we can be, and we're not afraid to tell it over and over and over again. And now when people look at a deteriorated rubber pile and they see dozers moving it away, imaginations can run wild with what's next, what's going to happen there. When a new business announced that they have chosen Ashland over a nearby community, going to bring 100 new jobs, now there's a different place. People are looking to Ashland to be a different place. When we erect the tallest Christmas tree around on the corner, I have to admit, he may not know this, but one of the best pieces of feedback that I got from Carlos after that, because believe it or not, Carlos wandered down there on that rainy night. I didn't know he was coming, but people saw him there, was a text message that he followed up with that some of his friends out in Las Vegas were saying, that can't be Ashland. That's Ashland's new reality. And if you think the tree's impressive, wait till you see we make some of the improvements that we have planned for the coming years. By the time this is all said and done, I have no doubt, all of you, when you're describing your hometown, you'll say, well, our great city, it sparkles.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to kick off the Q&A. I'm going to start off with a question to Dr. Campo. And I think the first couple things we're going to get into, we talked a little bit through here, but we'll dive a little deeper into that. All right. So the Ashland Rising strategic plan, I'm going to go over those again real quick. It has 5 pillars. Those are academic excellence, unique Christian identity, exemplary fiscal stewardship, a supportive campus environment, and an enhanced community engagement effort. The pillar I want to focus on most right now is the last one, enhanced community engagement. Can you tell us a little specifically about how Ashland University has walked the walk, how they have worked towards that goal since the plan's inception?
Sure, I talked about what's happening right across the way, but one of the things that folks are aware of, some of you are the internships. So you've already benefited from an intern standing in the back of the room. Matter of fact, one of the marketing interns called me the other day and she said, I'm interning at a local business. Would you consider doing 1 hour here to meet students and pay for them to have a product here at this local business? You know, we have been able to connect through internships and invest with marketing strategies for local businesses. I think often about the fact that Ashland University invests in other ways and partly in doing research for folks in this community. I think about Charles River and the internships that we have there and the connection that we have with Charles River, particularly through some of our faculty and staff who communicate with them regularly. So that's certainly another way that I think about that community engagement continuing to take shape and for us to invest in. But you know, it's been simple things too, where we have said to the community, let's have a community night for men's or women's basketball or for football. Or we had a community night for a movie out on the lawn. Probably not tonight. What do you think? Right. Not going to camp out tonight. So, you know, those are other ways that we have invested and stayed connected. You know, we've been very tightly connected to the Ashland Ministerial Association to find out how we can become involved. We've got students who are volunteering across the city and across the county, and folks that are often forgotten in our community. And so I'm really proud of, you know, food drives and those kinds of ways that we've stayed engaged. We've had kids that are helping clean out Shine Theater. You know, we believe in rolling up our sleeves and getting to work to say, this is our community. And folks say, Carlos, we get it. You know, you probably have a few students who come to Ashland and think there's not a lot going on here. But what we say is if you thought Ashland was a party university, nobody really gave you the inside scoop here. You didn't come to Ashland to party. But what they're finding is, and honestly, just walking them down in that parade that we did, a lot of them said, we didn't even know this was here. Literally, we didn't know this institution was here. A lot of folks said we'd never been downtown to shop before, and we didn't realize how close it was. So part of it really is just making ourselves available and opening those doors to students to say there's a community out there that wants to embrace you, and thank you for doing that, and that really has helped.
Absolutely.
In fact, this was the first year this year that I was invited to attend the orientation for the new freshmen. So as they gathered in the gymnasium and they heard a wonderful speech by the president, it was followed up with the mayor standing before them, asking each of them to rise, raised their right hand, and I swore them in as honorary citizens of the city of Ashland. Now, you'll be happy to know if we're one of the townies. I also told them as part of the oath, they had to repeat, I will always strive to use the crosswalks and never cross when the light says not to. all the faculty understood that well, what we were referring to, but I will tell you, that is one of the ways, though, we're connecting. Sure. It's not just special events. It is trying to make the students aware of, and this may sound silly, who the mayor is. Whenever I'm invited to events, and I keep getting more and more invitations, in fact, I will tell you, we are trying to meet the students so that it is their town's mayor, quite frankly. Yep. And I know it's working, and I will tell you why it's working, because of this anecdote, and forgive me.
Oh, absolutely.
Last night,
go ahead.
We were at the AU Convocation Center right before we went into the ACCF donor reception. One of our international students. The truth is, I could not tell you her name. I think I might have met her in the past. I'm not sure. She came up to me and she says, I want to ask your advice. And struggled with her English. It was hard to understand. But what she wanted to pull me aside and talk to me about was she had been in an accident and the insurance had replaced her car. However, it didn't replace all the time. She lost in the classes. And she lost a lot of money in the deal, and she was wondering if I could give her guidance as to how she should pursue that. The truth is, I probably didn't give great advice, but isn't that interesting that she was seeking me out there to have a conversation with me about her experience here in Ashland. So I think that the efforts are paying off beyond just serving on the same committees.
Right, that's good.
You know, I will say the crosswalks are impressive. Like, people use them. That did not happen in my college town. We just ran across the road and hoped for the best. I actually want to stick with Dr. Campo one more time here.
It's a good idea. I'm sorry.
I promise I will ask you a question too. But
I'm here to support him.
But one of the things that has many in higher education worried is the enrollment cliff. Universities across the United States are concerned about a serious drop in enrollment to come in the early to mid-20s. So I wanted to ask you, it makes me think of that fiscal stewardship pillar. So what has Ashland University done to prepare for this, and what is it continuing to do?
Well, great question. You know, when you describe yourself as an all-online journalism institution, I think you've pointed the way to the future, not just for Ashland, but when we think about our undergraduate program, for instance, we know that for years, you could basically take a 100-mile lasso and you pretty much get all of our students. About 80-90% of our students come from that 100-mile radius. We know that that radius is shrinking. But there is a whole other radius that is not constrained by that lasso, and so online is one of the things we've invested in, and we are continuing to expand our online programs. We've also found ways to try to reduce or at least sustain tuition. We're about to announce a 4-year tuition freeze for incoming freshmen, so keeping tuition costs down really helps as well. Some of you know that thanks to a partner and friend of the universities, we're now able to offer free tuition, get the word out, free tuition to any student who wants to teach. So if you want to be a teacher and you qualify for the Pell Grant, you can come to Ashland tuition free. So we're excited about that program. I know, that's a big deal, isn't it? It's a big deal. Yes. And frankly, we're hoping to roll that out to more than just teaching. We want to be able to offer that to students who want to do other things as well, so we're looking at that internally. But Tracy, I think those are a couple of the ways that we're looking out at the future. This much we know. We think we're bucking a trend. If you ask the average American, for the first time in U.S. history, Americans are saying that higher education is going in the wrong direction. Well, why are they saying that? 2 main reasons. I've already named the first main reason, and that's cost. It's too expensive. Second reason, folks are concerned that students are not being educated, but instead being inculcated around some sort of worldview. And I will tell you, that's never been Ashland. Never. I mean, I know I've only been here 4.5 years. I've studied this institution, I've talked to alums. Ashland has never been hyper-politicized. We've always been above that fray and delivered a great education. So I think that's another thing that will retain that essence of Ashland and continue to draw students, despite the fact that we do know that that enrollment cliff is coming.
All right, thank you for that.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right, Mayor Miller, this one's for you. The city, the environment that a college is in, it certainly plays a role in retaining students. So I think back to my time at Edinburgh University in southern Erie County, Pennsylvania, where the snow and the cold really ultimately drew some students to leave. Fortunately, believe it or not, the weather here in Ashland is not as severe as it was for me in Erie County, Pennsylvania.
Can you please tell our students that?
I once actually went through snow that was like almost waist high.
Wow.
I was taking a shortcut to class. Not a good idea. But that being said, I did want to ask you, what is the city doing to enhance the environment here for college students?
No, that's a great question. And I think when I hear your question, the answer is we're doing things here in this city to make it more livable, not just for the students, but for everyone. You know, increasingly, as the months go by in this role, what I'm beginning to see is the distinctive factor when it comes to how Ashland can stand out from the crowd is the culture of the community. Over and over again, when potential business prospects are in town or when outside developers come to town, I show them everything we have to offer, show them our wonderful amenities, but I promise you I am not exaggerating that the thing they comment on as they're waving goodbye is, this is something else how nice everyone is in this community. I'm beginning to think it's true. You are the world headquarters of the nice people. We just brought in Ivan. I won't say his last name, but Ivan from Manhattan, New York. He came in because Ivan is considering getting involved in the pump house corridor. Dr. Dan and I spent some time on the telephone with him, and he finally came and made an actual visit to town, looking at potentially building 150 to 200 new apartments in that area. And when he came through, I took him everywhere. Took him to the business, the industrial park, brought him through here, walked him through Substance Church, walked him down South Street. And at the end of the day, as we're sitting in the car getting ready to park, he just laughed and he shook his head and he says, the people are the nicest thing around here. He says, it's just amazing how nice the people are. In a world growing with chaos, that's more divided than ever before, when urban centers are dealing with issues that have not yet confronted us here, you better believe Ashland will sparkle when it has all of those traditional values of duty, honor, personal responsibility, respect of yourself, respect of others. Yes. When we have kindness as what we're known for, we'll be a good place to come to college at as well. And what are we doing, though? That's more of a fuzzy answer to that, but this is what I'm going to say. We have actually, last year, thanks to the Ashland County Community Foundation, we received a grant for $80,000 to hire a professional firm, OHM Advisors, out of Columbus, to sit with the community stakeholders and determine what were 3 or 4 major projects that we could try to tackle in 5 years or less, make them a reality, projects that you could touch, feel, see, and experience. This isn't a long-term strategic plan. There's a reason it's called Targeted Action Plan, because it means specific things we need to accomplish in order to make ourselves more livable, or Ashland more livable. And I'm pleased to report Dr. Campo made the time to be in on all of those meetings. Dr. Lawson of the university was part of those meetings. And Rick Ewing, the vice president, was one of the co-steering committee leaders that led that effort. Basically, the groups came together. It was a representative from the university, the Chamber of Commerce, the hospital, the county, the city, Main Street, the president of Main Street Ashland Board. And the great irony is, in the very first meeting, we asked folks to put up their ideas of what we needed to do, what should be our priority projects. And then you know how it's done. Everyone goes and puts their sticker alongside the item that they think is the most important. And that very first meeting, with no discussion, no preconceived notions, no talking behind the scenes or off to the side, everyone, just like that, agreed on what would be 3 or 4 projects that we needed to do. What are those projects? Number one of them is cleaning up the pump house corridor. The truth of the matter is, if you're visiting this area and you're looking to come here as a student or you're looking to do business here in this community, you cannot have a giant deteriorating rubble pile in the middle of your city. And I will tell you quite frankly, and I know the City Council agrees with me, and they proved they did by supporting the effort, none of us like to spend city resources to clean up messes. But you know what? The alternative is for those messes to get even worse and breed new messes if we don't address them. That's why we are biting the bullet and we're going to clean up the mess. And as soon as the pump house is cleaned up, and I will tell you, this is, I guess you could say, hot off the press. We've been working for 2 years trying to get the owner of Hess Clark to give us ownership of the building so we can move forward with that one. And it's been a struggle, a bit of a struggle, because it's quite a situation. This past week, we got the 2-sentence letter from him. Dear Mayor Miller, I am interested in donating the building to the city of Ashland. So as soon as we get, you do need to celebrate that victory because it's a victory for all of us. But as soon as the pump house done, we move on to Hess Clark. Should I quiet down?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Right.
You have 2 more of those.
I do. He had lots of pillars in his plan.
Yes, that's totally fair. He had 5, you have 3.
All right, that's right. So real quick, let me go on.
You're good.
The pump house corridor. There will be new life in the pump house corridor. That's vital because a lot of that new life, I'm convinced, will come in the form of new housing and mixed-use properties. And that, again, will provide other opportunities, even potential living arrangements for the students and, very importantly, for the faculty.
Yes.
Because faculty, in many instances, are going home in other places. They're going home to other places at night because we don't have the type of housing that they're necessarily looking for or the amenities downtown yet that they're looking for, but we're getting there. Another project, quite frankly, as simple as it is, improving this alley next to us. Starting to get the look and feel of what you find in some of those urban settings that we all visit when we've got a day off or that we love to go out to eat at on a Saturday night. Trying to recreate that, and not only recreate it, but create our version of it right here in the city of Ashland. One of the projects in the Targeted Action Plan is turning South Street, that's behind this building, into a gathering spot like you might see on Cleveland's 4th Street, up by the arena, where there's outdoor patio seating, maybe a concert in the alley, do some dramatic lighting on the buildings, bring in some big plantings and planters, and spruce it up so that perhaps, don't want to scare any of the potential business owners that might be along South Street, but perhaps after 5 p.m., Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that street's closed to traffic, and now it's just a pedestrian walkway. If you haven't taken a walk down it, you'd be amazed at how many storefronts exist on South Street. And so it's not unheard of to think that that could become a wonderful gathering spot down here in the city with character, that people would want to be here, and the students would hopefully want to walk down and join us. And then, of course, there are more. I won't keep going on, but one of them, this will be the last one, Center Run Trail. We have a beautiful historic downtown that's getting better every day. We've decided that we're going to turn that Town Creek into an asset. Rather than just being Town Creek, it can become Center Run Trail. Center Run Trail will feature a walking path, paved walking path, some ornamental lighting, some green space starting at Broad Street. It'll wind through the city parking lot behind Substance Church, through what will be the newly landscaped, newly designed parking lot that the city owns, because it's filling up these days now that we have the brewery and Linder's and other entities, Substance Church along South Street. The creek reappears down here by Dairy Queen, and we were very fortunate to give a $1.2 million grant to acquire the properties all along Main Street, starting at the Sunoco gas station all the way to Dairy Queen, as well as most of the way down Cleveland Avenue. We got the grant in the name of repairing the riparian corridor. In other words, those homes are in floodplains. They need to be removed from being so close to the creek, Center Run. We now have purchase agreements on just about every one of those properties, and so next year, many of those worn out properties will be removed so that as folks are making their way into town with mom and dad, and as you and I are living here and enjoying our quality of life, it'll be a much better experience for all of us. There are more little projects that are worth talking about in that plan, but I will zip it.
Well, I hate to disappoint, but the next question's for you too.
Is it good? This is good. There's been a turning point.
Just a matter of time before this happens. Things taking a dark turn.
I will tell you, when I walked in back there, Scott Williams and his table, they all said, "Will you guys arm wrestle? If you guys are arm wrestle, we'd like to see who would win."
Maybe at the end.
All right.
All right. So my question for you is about Ashland on the Rise, and the thought process behind those signs that are hosted outside of so many businesses along this main street. It's one of the first things I noticed whenever I got here to Ashland, moved into the office across the street. I'm fortunate enough, the owners of Flight Media are allowing me to have a desk there and work out of their space, really, until the coffee space across the road, one of the buildings with the sign in it, opens up officially. So tell me about the thought process of putting those signs in along Main Street businesses here.
I think it started with the fact that last summer, if you noticed, we probably had 7 or 8 dumpsters on Main Street. And you know, I love those dumpsters. And look at this dumpster right out here next to us. You know what? Some communities may brag and boast about all the millions of dollars that are being put into their downtown. If you want to judge what's happening in Ashland, take a look at the number of dumpsters. You know what? This city, we're finally cleaning it up. And every one of those dumpsters represents a major renovation or remodel of one of our downtown buildings. I'm joking, of course. We'll be glad to see the day when there are no dumpsters downtown. But when you look at those dumpsters today, you think about what they represent. They represent a transformation of the city of Ashland. And how awesome is it that you and I get to live here as it takes place? We're cleaning up the old, sweeping it away, and we're building new in its place. And we're preparing for the next generation of Ashland's success. And I do believe we have an exciting future. The thought process behind it was, as I said, one of the things when I ran that I talked about is we wanted to be transparent. Now, you might expect a politician to say that. But by transparent, what I meant is it's the people's business. Tell them about it. There's nothing you do in city government that's so secretive or top clearance that you shouldn't be able to tell everyone. If we've got a prospective business looking at our community, unless they have told me, do not share that I am looking, we need to let you all in on the scoop. Because you know what? If you're excited about the future, it'll make our case all the more stronger. And that is where the idea behind those signs came from. Those signs, Ashland on the Rise, were placed at each of the buildings where there's something new on its way. Not only does it alert all those folks that don't live here as they're passing through why they see this dumpster at the moment, or why they see the fence around the theater, or why they see the scaffolding at 16 East Main Street. It's to show the visitors there's something happening here. And it's to show all of us who live here there's something happening here. And I will tell you, we have got so much good feedback about those signs. And over again, people that quite frankly I think should know what's going on here already will tell me, I'm just amazed as I walk downtown, all of the different buildings that are getting remodeled and all the activities underway. Remember, part of leadership is inspiring hope and showing people where we can go. And I think those signs help us do that.
Indeed.
All right, everyone. I have one more question, and then we'll do a brief session where the audience can ask us questions as well. Dr. Campo, last one's for you. Your strategic plan, let's get back to that real quick. It's coming to an end, am I correct?
That's right, 2020, it's coming around the corner.
Okay, so what happens from here? Talk to me about the future. What's next?
Well, the future is, how do you replace Ashland Rising? Ashland Soaring, right? That must be next. We're actually not sure what the title will be of the next plan. But when we think about that plan, there are certain elements we know we want to take with us. Certainly, community connections will not go away. Whatever it says in the new plan, this has become part and parcel to how we do business. But we've been thinking about 10X ideas at Ashland, and how do we take that plan and think about things like student services. What would it mean if our student services were compared to Ritz-Carlton? Sounds crazy? Maybe not. Maybe not. Do you know that Ritz-Carlton actually consulted with Chick-fil-A? It's one of the reasons they don't use any plastic salt shakers any longer there. So we think that we can have a student experience. That's one of the things we can control. And I know this is going to sound like a tit for tat, but the reality is Matt Miller is one of the few people I know in the world that he had me convinced he actually did love dumpsters. And I guess it's that spirit of optimism that Matt talked about. Actually, there's a lot of research on this element in particular that says when you have a spirit on your campus that is infectious, truly it can lead to change. We talk about a transformational experience for all of our students, and that's really what we're all about. So we're really in the midst of this planning process. We will, by May 31st of 2020, deliver to the board our new strategic plan. We just had our very first sessions around it, Tracy. And I'll tell you, Dan, you've been at school a long time. I don't think we've ever had a session that had that kind of energy and excitement around it. And it's wonderful because we're thinking about doing this together. How can we together move the institution forward? However we're meeting the student, to tell them that they have purpose. Every human being wants to feel that. When a student sees that and they envision what their future is going to be, whatever they're going to be doing work-wise, to develop a skill set and a foundation for being a great employee and a great human being, we know that's going to be part of the plan as well. So we're well on our way. I want to share about 15 ideas that we have, and we're going to let those take shape along these next few months as we work together as an institution. I can tell you this, we sense urgency on our campus to not simply move forward incrementally. We really do want to take a leap forward as a campus, and so that much we can promise, that the next strategic plan will stretch our entire community to take some leaps forward and be very attractive to students, whether they're on campus or online.
And we like leaps.
Good.
Yes.
We really do. That's why we have a targeted action plan.
Right.
Because we are interested in making a difference now.
Right.
A significant difference now. I want to say one thing. When Carlos first introduced the plan, the strategic plan, whenever he'd talk about it, he would talk about Ashland Rising. And one of the things that he used to say, I haven't heard you say it in a while, is people would come up to him and ask him, when you say Ashland Rising, are you talking about Ashland University or are you talking about the city? And his answer, yes.